The Ambassador here with Talk Nerdy to Me to review the movie Wicked. It isn't going to be just a review by me. There will be a review by Marvin Goof and Chelsey as well that you will see. So you'll see three different perspectives about Wicked, if it's a hit or a miss. I went into Wicked not knowing much about the musical performance, but I do like musicals, so when I did go see it, it was a really good movie. Very enjoyable. Was casted mostly well. Like, Elphaba was done really well. Props to them getting an actual Broadway singer that can actually hit the notes to cover that, and she did a good job acting as well. The actress that really stood out, I would say, is Ariana Grande. She did really well and excelled my expectations. She helped make the movie really good. She not only hit all the notes well, she also nailed it with her interpretation of Glinda. The only casting that I say was not so good was the actual Wizard of Oz himself. That was Jeff Goldblum, and instead of being a stellar performance of the Wizard, it felt like it was just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum. So if you like Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum, it's a plus. But if you wanted someone to actually do an good interpretation of the Wizard of Oz, it's not so much. Overall, the movie is a really good. Visually, the movie is amazing. You can really see where the budget went. Is visually great. The sets look wonderful. I like how a lot of practical sets were used and not as much green screen as you usually see in most modern movies. So overall, I do have to give it a must-see, and it is worth watching in theater. And I will watch it again once it hits streaming. And I'll watch it again when part 2 comes out, because unfortunately this is only part 1, and it covers Act 1 of Wicked the Musical. Part 2 is already filmed. They filmed at the same time that they did this movie, so it will come out next year. So that's relieving. We're not having to wait for them to completely start filming again. It's already done. It's just mainly doing the edits to get it ready to go next year. So you heard that from me, and it's a must see.
This is Marvin Goof coming back from Talk Nerdy to Me, the show, for another review for you here. To be honest, the little theater nerd in me is beaming today. But
Sea of troubles, and by opposing in them, to die, to sleep no more.
Because I'm about to give you a review of what turns out to be Wicked Part 1. Now, John Chu directs this screen adaptation of the beloved musical known as Wicked. It's essentially a prequel to The Wizard of Oz and has been delighting audiences for decades at this point. Anyone who's in the know knows how legendary the show originally is. I'm delighted to say that John Chu actually puts on a great adaptation of this beloved musical and does it in a few different ways. Firstly, it's with the casting. The two main characters, played by Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, are very, very well casted. Firstly, just for their vocal performances, but also for the way they capture the characters' personalities. Ariana Grande puts on a great airy performance as Glinda the Good, and Cynthia Erivo comes in as Elphaba with this strong sense of self. It's a great portrayal for both characters. Secondly, I think the biggest part of this is actually the work that was done on the costuming. Oddly enough, not a lot of love gets given toward those departments, but you see in every stitch the amount of work that was put in with each costume for each person on screen. To me, that was one of the biggest stars of the film, is just how everyone's dressed. But thirdly, other than just the straight musical that this is, and thirdly, I would say the next biggest thing that comes from this is absolutely the set design. This movie is big, and they chose to make it big by putting a lot of money and investing into what it turns out to be beautiful set work. You feel like you could walk in, and I think it's a great tribute to the fact that this was originally a Broadway musical. You actually have the sets built in front of you, and you can tell CGI, while it's used at some points, certainly isn't the star of the show. It is the craftsmanship that goes into work on these set pieces. So, what are we talking about? What's the real scoop on this? If you're not into musicals, then you probably shouldn't be seeing this movie. But if you're able to put that aside and you are ready to see a story about the development of a great friendship and what turns out to be only the first part in what we are getting, like a musical, a 2-act setup, then I would absolutely, this is a must see. Go see it in the movie theater when you have the sound. And in that case, if you can't, of course, stream it when you can. This is certainly worth it, everyone.
It's good to see me, isn't it? This is Chelsey from Talk Nerdy to Me, here to talk nerdy to you and give you a review on Wicked. This movie, so gorgeous. It was just so well done. I went in as a non-believer and I came out a believer. I left there just like astonished. This has to be my option for best movie of the year, just because of how much love and effort it was put into this movie. Obviously, you have Cynthia Vivo as Elphaba, who actually did all her own stunts, all her own everything. Her voice was beautiful, and she was just such a perfect choice for Elphaba. You just really see her character development in the movie from the beginning, and there's like some Maury Povich stuff that happens where you find out who her real father is. I was really kind of a hater, and I'm like, why Ariana Grande? Why did they cast her? I did dig and dive down the Wicked hole and found out that Ariana Grande went at age 10 to see the musical Wicked, and she actually met with Kristen Chenoweth, who was the original Galinda in the Broadway production with Idina Frozen Elsa. Idina Menzel. She met her and she just really was overtaken by love and joy, and she manifested for all these years that she wanted to be Galinda, and you can see all the love that's poured into this role. There's also odes to the original Wizard of Oz, like, when Elphaba rescues an animal and puts him in the basket and drives off with the bicycle. It's obviously a nod to the Wizard of Oz in the first movie, where the teacher drives off with Toto. There's other really nice nods, and you find out that it's setting you up for a sequel. I don't want to give any of that away, but another fun fact that's probably one of my favorite facts of the movie that I just found out about is the guy from Bridgerton, Jonathan Bailey, who obviously is from Bridgerton. He plays Fiyero. So he, in the movie, his horse is the same horse that he has and rides in Bridgerton, which is the greatest thing ever, I think. And he was a perfect choice. And his role was just so well executed. It was so good. Everybody in this movie was so great. And the casting just kept getting better and better and better as we went in through the movie. And then the reveal about who they chose for the wizard at the end was just made me kick my feet and scream. And then, of course, when they reach the Emerald City, they have a homage to the original Wicked cast with Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, and they have them have this big huge scene about who the wizard is and just giving you information about him, which is wonderful. And that made me so happy that they were able to do an homage and a nod. The last thing I'll say about, I know that they hand built all the sets, and they just really took love and creation into this. As I mentioned, I think that Cynthia Vivo was so just obsessed with her role that she actually did all her own stunts on the broom. So literally that's her. That's not a stunt double, like doing all her stuff, like flying away on the broom. She did all that herself, which is incredible. Also, you know, I just can't emphasize how good this movie was and just how it made me feel. So if you have anything to do, go see this movie. It's a little long. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's probably going to be the best 2 hours and 40 minutes you spend of the rest of the year. Go see this. One of my votes for best movie of the year. So go do yourself a favor and go see it. I am Galinda so much more than I like to admit. Just Galinda is me core, basically. She just, all the things she says, all her stuff she has, and how like just uppity she is me. It's Galinda core. So even her falling in love with Fiyero and saying, oh, my biggest secret is he's going to marry me. And she's like, does he know about this? And I was like, no, that's exactly pretty much what happened with me and my husband.